Okay, so picture this. We're in Sun City, Arizona, at a homeowners association called Corte. You know the type. It looks peaceful, quiet, maybe even a little too perfect. But, as you can probably guess, behind the scenes, a major power struggle was about to explode, pitting neighbor against neighbor and putting the community's own rules on trial. And what kicked it all off? This one. Absolutely stunning admission. A board member, Vincent Petrella, actually went on a community blog and boasted that he orchestrated a super controversial appointment. And he called it politics at its best. Whoa. Right away, you know this isn't just about filling an empty seat on the board. This is about power, it's about strategy, and it's a move that set the entire community on edge.
And that's really the million-dollar question here, isn't it? When does a clever political move cross the line and become an illegal one? I mean, where is that boundary between using the rules to your advantage and just straight up breaking them? To figure that out, this whole mess had to go in front of a judge.
So enter Martin Scheinholtz. He's a homeowner who just knew in his gut that something was fundamentally wrong with how this all went down. He was convinced the real decision was made in the shadows, so he filed a formal complaint, claiming the board had held an illegal, secret meeting. His whole legal challenge really came down to that one thing, a secret meeting. He was saying that a handful of board members got together privately to decide the outcome before the public meeting even started. And if that's true, it's a direct violation of Arizona's open meeting law. And that law is there for a very good reason, to make sure big community decisions happen out in the open, not behind some closed door. All right, so let's zoom in on the meeting itself, December 11th, 2012. If you looked at the agenda, it seemed totally standard, almost boring. But what actually happened that night?
Yeah, it was anything but routine.
So here's the play-by-play. The meeting kicks off like any other, but then it gets to the part of the agenda vaguely labeled New Business. Suddenly, a surprise motion is made to appoint a guy named William Blake to the board. Now, since this wasn't on the agenda, only 2 homeowners got to speak before they called a quick vote. And just like that, it passed, 4-2. Boom. Mr. Blake was on the board. So, when this all gets to court, the board members have to testify under oath, and their stories, well, let's just say they didn't exactly match up. The judge was left trying to piece together a puzzle of who knew what and when they knew it. And this is where you can really see the split. On one side, you have the dissenters. One board member, Regina Shawnee-Saborski, testified she was completely blindsided. But then you have the planners. 3 of them admitted that, yeah, they had talked about the possibility of this exact motion before the meeting even started. And then you have Vincent Petrella, maybe the star witness against his own side. He testified that he knew the motion would probably be made, but he intentionally left it off the agenda. His argument? Any member can raise new business. And then, of course, you have that incredible admission from his blog, where he proudly took credit for orchestrating the whole thing. Okay, so with all this conflicting testimony, the judge basically had to push the drama aside and just focus on one thing, the rules. What did Arizona state law actually say? And, just as important, what did Corte Bella's own HOA bylaws allow? Now, to really get the verdict, you have to understand this one critical legal term, quorum. A quorum is just the minimum number of members you need for a meeting to be official. Usually it's a majority. If you don't have a quorum, you don't have a legal meeting. It's just a conversation. And that little detail, it turns out to be a really, really big deal. So how many board members actually talked about this appointment beforehand? 3. And on this particular board, 3 members is not a quorum. This single number became the key to the entire defense. Legally speaking, their private chat, no matter how strategic it was, just wasn't an illegal secret meeting. So you see the problem here, right? It's a real legal puzzle. On one hand, you've got Arizona's open meeting law, which is all about transparency and having an agenda. But on the other hand, Corte Bella's own bylaws gave the board the clear, direct power to just appoint someone to fill a vacant seat. They didn't need a special election, just a board vote. So, the moment of truth. The evidence is in, everyone's testified, and the rules have been picked apart. The judge is ready to make the call. After everything, was the law actually broken here? Well, the judge's reasoning was actually pretty straightforward. First off, there was no illegal secret meeting because that pre-discussion didn't have a quorum. Second, the HOA's own bylaws gave the board the absolute right to make the appointment. And finally, the public meeting itself followed the law. It was open and residents were allowed to speak. Based on all that, the judge dismissed the complaint. Case closed. But, a judge's ruling isn't always the end of the story, is it? Legally, the board won. But in the court of public opinion within the community, the fight was just heating up. Angry homeowners, led by the guy who filed the complaint, launched a recall petition to get the newly appointed William Blake kicked off the board. The battle had moved from the courtroom to a community-wide vote.
And in a pretty fascinating twist, when the entire community finally got the chance to vote on it, the recall failed. William Blake kept his seat. The board's controversial, orchestrated plan was, in the end, actually upheld by the very people it governed.
So this whole thing leaves us with a pretty tough question, doesn't it? The board won legally, and they survived politically. They followed the letter of the law. But by surprising their own board members and the rest of the community, did they break something more fundamental, like trust? It makes you wonder, in any community, is being technically right always enough? And what's the real cost of winning at politics at its best?